Oh, no. Okay, so I've just arrived at a village I'd never been to before, and I'm here to see casting ashes. There's an intimidating man walking down the street. Anyway, I'm gonna try and find it. I wanted to ask you so this is your shop, this is your place, this is your business.
Yeah.
How did you arrive at doing this? I mean, what is your background? Why did you start doing this? How did you get the idea?
It was because it happened while we were still in Yorkshire. I was a teacher at the time. Noel was working in film industry.
And Noel is your business partner?
Noel's my husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So we had 2 children. We were just working long hours. We knew we wanted a different lifestyle and to move to Cornwall. But it was at a family funeral. Noel's Catholic. I'm Protestant background. So it was a burial, and I'd never been to a burial before. And I said to him, "Would you want to be buried then?" He's not a practicing Catholic, but I'd asked him nonetheless, and he said, "No, I'd want my ashes to be cast into a sculpture."
He said that?
He said that, and he's a sculptor, you see.
Oh,
he's an artist and a sculptor. That's his passion, his love.
That makes a little more sense.
And so it was an unusual thing, but he's a bit sort of eccentric, and I just thought that was an interesting idea. And I said, well, I wonder if it's a thing, you know? Has anybody ever done that? So we looked it up. We just did a bit of investigation. Couldn't find anything like that. You obviously get ashes put into jewellery,
yeah,
and sometimes into artwork and so on, but we didn't see anything with sculpture. And so we thought, that's an idea, that's something we could do. We knew we would be coming to Cornwall and that we'd want to do something. But we found this property actually when we'd only been here 2 weeks. It was as if it all just fell into place.
Wow.
And we already had the name, because the name Casting Ashes just came very quickly, because it just explains what it is that you're doing.
Right.
You know, you're casting in the sense that you're making a mould and casting sculpture, but the ashes, as you scatter ashes, you cast them. So there's the double meaning there, and it just worked really well. So yeah, it's just been a nice thing to do, a slower pace of life. And as I say, the way that it's gone, at the beginning, we were thinking that it's such an unusual idea. We were really just talking about it for pets. You know, we were saying we can do it for pets' ashes. So some of the earliest moulds designs were like a crouching hare we had, and got a cat, and you know, so that people could do that. And even, as I say, the touchstone were when somebody lost a cat. So yeah, we just really advertised it as that. We spoke about it more of that, and then people started to put orders in and for human ashes for their parents and, you know, grandparents. So and more often now it is for human ashes.
Do people still reach out for pets?
Very occasionally, but more rarely. Yeah. I like to think that it's just a way of connecting people, keeping people connected. I chose the phrase elemental connections, and just the thought that the stuff of the earth, the actual minerals of the earth, are actually the minerals of our body, and that blending together, and then having something tangible to hold, because it gives a focus and it helps you to feel close. And you know, I think that's what's most rewarding about it, that people can just hold them and continue talking to the person, or if they're just doing what they would normally do, sitting in front of the telly, watching what you'd normally watch on TV and thinking they're not here anymore, you can pick up, you can just sit with this in your hand and just feel a sense of presence. And so I think that's really, it can be a doorway into a closeness, a continued sense of connection, and I like to think that's what's That's what it's all about. I've got sifted sand because I do sift it for the smaller items. I sift it. Most people want the the natural colours. You can see the natural colours here.
Yeah.
But this is actually the York buff, which is like a sand colour there. This one is actually
both of them,
well, this one is our ammonite, and that is waiting for collection. So that is actually being cast with ashes, and somebody will collect it. We can't put that one in the post. I mean, some of them we do send out, the smaller items, but when it gets heavier, it's over the weight for, and I think it's just about looking after it and just making sure that it's going to be okay.
Break.
So we say collection only for the larger items, and obviously it's that seaside, that coastal theme again with the ammonite, because we sort of use the natural colours, but also just inspired by where we are in Cornwall. So in that one, that's a shell. Just call that a shell, the shell sculpture. Whenever we have a casting, the first thing we would do would be to light a candle. So I always light a candle and then place how much ashes that we need. I mean, I ask people, when they put their order in, we'll send out the ashes collection kit, and then it says in it how much ashes we need. So it's all just calculated depending on their order. So if it's, obviously only a small amount, if you're having some of the smaller pebbles, but sometimes people want a few things. The ashes would be here, and then mix up the cement, depending on what we're doing. We'd have the ordinary cement, and then we would have small amount of it that we can then add the ashes. Sometimes the ashes get added in directly to a mould, but sometimes they would be made into a paste. So it just depends on what we're doing and the effect, that we're.
Well, shall we? I'll sit down with you and we can kind of reenact what you would do.
These are the sort of larger ones. There's, for example, these are the heart ones. That's the one. Yeah, silicone. That's the one for the tea light over there. Tea light holder. They're larger ones. And then to that, I would add some of the white cement. So
is this the ashes that you're doing right
ashes
now?
would be in here.
Oh, ashes
would be in here if we were using ashes. So this is my sand, sifted sand, and then I add some cement, white cement, about half and half, around half and half. I need to make sure that every particle of sand is covered with the cement. That's how then I make sure that it's just like making basic cement, really. Adding the white cement rather than just using standard Portland cement gives it that lovely white finish. A lovely white finish, Yeah, and so it's nice. So I'll just add then a little bit of this. This is called SBR. It's some sort of solvent. It's SBR, and put a little bit of that in. Mix it up.
Do you ever play music or anything?
Oh, we do. Now I'm glad you mentioned that, because we do ask people. So at the beginning I would just play something nice, calming music, but then we thought it's nice I think it was when we were having people to do it themselves, is there any particular request that you would like? And so then we just thought, well, we'll ask that for anybody. So when they make an order and we send out the ashes collection kit, there's a form we send out that actually asks, first of all, for the permission to use on social media. That they're happy if we use any of their photographs in the making of, because obviously it's sensitive if you're using ashes. So that's me. And they also then say, have you got any requests? And I also ask who it's for, because people can say if they want to. Sometimes people don't fill that in, but sometimes people want to tell you a lot. They want to tell you about who it was and why the music's special and so on. And that's really nice, because then when I'm making it nice, you really do feel a sense of connection to the person.
So even when you're making these and no one's here with you. You play the music that they
Absolutely.
might be requesting.
Yeah. It's a respectful. It's just recognizing that you're doing something that's different, that's special, and it has that element of the invisible as well about it, that it's going beyond just this dimension. You know, there is that sense, and especially if somebody sends a photograph, I really do. You get the photograph. People can send us messages through the website, and they sometimes will send an attachment of the photograph of the person, and then I'll get it up on the screen there, so that we'll have the photograph up, we'll have the music playing, and I really do. I think sometimes I get shivers even talking about it. Get a sense of their personality, and it's a really nice thing to do, and also just a lovely sense that they're interested. It's almost as if they're so gratitude for what's being done for those that are left behind, because it is a means of connection, and that's what I like to just emphasize, that it's a tangible form of connection. I've got my cement mix now. That's probably just about right. I don't want it much more sloppy than that, because if it was too wet, it takes a long time to dry. It takes longer to dry in winter than it does in summer. So I might add a little bit of, I've got York Buff cement here, and just add a little bit of that.
So do you do most of this just by feel, by
Yeah, you get to know. You sort of get to know, and I might need, it does dry it out a little bit, I might need to drop more of the liquid. It's so that it makes it a little bit waterproof, so that if it was to go outside, like in the larger, you know, if you were to use it,
sort of bind it together.
If it's a binder, that's going to be quite as strong. It might be. They do lighten up when they dry. So what I will do then is make sure it's properly mixed up. So in it we go. Yeah, it's quite nice. Sometimes I would do two different colours, a white and, so you could have a mottled effect.
Oh, right.
We do that sometimes. You firstly just put a small amount in, and then it would go downstairs into the workshop, and it would go on a vibrating machine. So we used to just do it by hand and tap to get the air bubbles out. Tap, 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 tap. But we've got a little machine now that does it. We can put a few on at a time.
Wow. Did you make these molds yourself?
No, made them. So what he did was created the pebbles using clay. So they were designed to fit in the hand, the right size for the hand. For example, with these, you know, you've got the actual, so they sit in your hand, and your thumb can just into that groove. It's a nice hand feel. So that, and then you just pour the silicone, the rubber over it, and then another layer and another. You build it up in layers, and then you have these molds. Yeah. So you can see the little air bubbles actually coming out.
Yeah, I see now.
And so we just leave that to rest a little bit. This is the stage at which we would add some ashes. So if we had some ashes in here, we would probably tap them in there. So on Instagram, I do try to, if people say they want, you know, they're quite happy to, and sometimes people really want to have a little reel made, then it can show just a few seconds of the different stages and then the finished product at the end. So there are some of those on our Instagram page. So I would wait usually a little bit there, allow that to sit for a little bit, and then I would fill it a bit more, and then we would put those two together. That's a two-part
you do it in layers.
Yes.
So ashes and then a little more mixture.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Try not to necessarily get the ashes on the surface. The ashes actually inside usually. Sometimes they are on the surface, and it would just cause a sort of discolouring. You just see a little bit. Sometimes people don't like that, but on the whole, they go on the inside. And it's interesting, the story for how the pebbles came about, because the touchstones. It was a lady who came in, and her son was autistic, and their cat had died, and so suddenly, and she just was heartbroken, and she knew that her son had really struggled with it, and she wanted something that he could just hold, because he just would be doing, you know, it would be a comforting thing to do this with his hands, and so she asked, and she said, we often go and walk along the beach and collect pebbles anyway, so it was a natural thing to do. And that came out, and the name Touchstones, I put it out on Instagram and just said, you know, what do you think? What would be a good, like, grieving pebbles or grieving stones? And someone said touchstones because you are touching them. It's a nice idea. So a lot of it's been organic. The way that the way that our designs have come about. It's been through what people have asked for.
What would you say is your most popular?
The little hearts tend to be really popular.
Is this one, or is this a big heart?
That's one of the bigger hearts. What have I done with the little ones? Got them somewhere. Yeah, the hearts, the little hearts. That's one where when I put into the mould, we'd put a layer in, just a really thin skin, leave it overnight to dry, crack it the next day, and then put the other colour in. Okay.
There it is.
And the same effect with black ones.
There we go.
Oh yeah, okay.
I love that one.
Yeah, they're nice, aren't they? And this is a nice effect too. That's where in the mould you just paint on the darker colour, the black, with a little paintbrush. And then you kind of get those, it's almost like little craters of pebbles.
Yeah, they're so nice.
And then this is another one with almost like piebald, isn't it? Can you see just the two different colours? I think this is a really nice one for the hand feel, because it's just got like that thumb indent there, and we can get a nice polished surface on that. So that one's called the desk pebble, but it's a little bit bigger than the pocket pebble, which is just a tiny size, so it can sit and you can see the two there together. And we do a little nest of pebbles where you get the three different pebbles, those three together. Oh, wow. In sitting in a little bowl. Sitting in a little bowl.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so that's quite sweet. And then what's nice is that you can hold them during the day, take them with you, and then they've got somewhere to sit at home.
They have a home.
Yeah, yeah. So what you would then do, it's a little bit wet still, but what you do is you make sure you're getting it the right. I can see I've got two there, goes into the two gaps, and one here. And then we place it together. And I've got some, yeah, these just tell me if it's lined up as well. Little grooves here. And that looks perfect. And then I would weight it with something, so I'd probably put a stone on it, and it would sit there, overnight. And then probably 2 days actually. In summer we get away with perhaps 1.5 days, but I think we leave it 2 or 3 days just so that it's properly dry. Yeah.
And there you have it.
You can get that lovely shine on that, like it's like marble.
So this is
it's
one
nice
of
and smooth. So it is. It's on. I think it's just called the sphere. I think it's just.
How do you polish that then? Do you just...
So when it comes out of the mould, it has a bit of a shine on it anyway, and then we just use wax. We use a furniture wax on it, and so people at home can do the same. They can actually just polish it with a soft cloth.
And then there's the angel wing.
That's the angel wing, which obviously if you get more textured, you're not going to get that finish. So it's just really to people's taste. And some people want something more figurative. Other people want something that's just more minimalist, you know, depending on your home, your style.
And this one looks like a candle can go in there.
So it was the same design, but we just then made
Oh, that's so nice, because then you can light a candle
That's
while
right. So you have a cavity. So from the side, it just appears as though the flame is at the top of the sphere. So that's on our website, Candle Sphere, I think it's called. There's a whole section for the candle light stuff, and there's a section for all the earthy stuff and the heavenly stuff. So we've tried to theme.
Yeah, your website's really great.